Hello, and today welcome to a brand new podcast. So obviously I have Mr. Munclesonkey and Protoxx with me, and today we're going to be speaking about obviously Raksha and all of the different stuff linking into RS3 bossing and new releases, stuff like that, and then maybe a little bit about power creep and things and skill gaps and stuff. So we will cover a nice little broad spectrum of stuff in today's podcast. And we'll probably go off topic a ton like we always do. So, you can expect that. It's a podcast. We're here to have fun. You guys seem to enjoy it last time, so we'll try and do more in the future. And it'll be on Spotify, etc. So there'll be a link of that in the description, all of that stuff. And we'll try and get it as widespread as possible so then people can watch it on the go, etc. So, first of all, I think I want to ask you, Mr. Munclesonkey, what you thought of the boss, because I know you tried it recently and it was pretty difficult. And obviously it is a hard boss. So what did you make of it?
It's interesting. It's definitely like a mechanic that feels a bit more old school RS to me than RS3, just because of the constant prayer switching throughout the fight. Because in my experience playing old school, that's a mechanic that's used a lot. So that was something that just I think is kind of like rhythm based. Once you get used to it, it's not too bad. At the start, it's like, oh, we haven't been forced to do this before very many bosses outside of maybe like a small section of boss like Raksha phase 4, but you don't have to do that throughout the entire fight. And the fact that you have to switch all three prayer styles is new. I can't remember. Maybe you guys can, but I can't remember an occasion where we've had to switch between 3 prayers before.
Jad's the only one
Yeah.
in melee distance.
Same with Rax. I think if you melee Rax, you have to do 3 styles as well.
No. If you're melee distance Rax, it's only range. It's only mage and melee. It's not range.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Why did they make Rax harder by doing triple styles? That's kind of weird. I don't know.
That's a good question.
I'm not sure. It always does melee. So you camp melee in MD, and then you'll see the mage animation. So you flick to mage, and then switch back to camping melee. Out of MD, it's just swap between range and mage constantly.
Yeah, that's that hard.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier than Raksha, where it's always like one of the 3. But the cool thing with Raksha, what a lot of people didn't know on the start, which made it harder, is that it can never be the same attack back to back if you're in MD.
Yeah.
So if you're praying melee and it hits you with a melee, the next is definitely going to be range or mage, so you can get prepared for that. So it makes it a little bit easier in that regards. But obviously, it's still a lot harder to time 3 different prayer flicks. You just need to get used to your binds and get used to the timings and the animations, I guess.
Keybinds.
Yeah, having a mouse with buttons on it, I imagine, would be very helpful. I do not have one, but
yes,
I can imagine that.
Neither.
I use the Corsair Scimitar, and it has the 12 buttons on the side, and I use like those buttons, and I use shift modifiers for those buttons, and that's how I PVM.
I will say it feels like you have a pretty wide margin of error, though, with Raksha. Like, the prayer switches aren't super punishing. It's not like killing Jad, right, where you have to have the prayer switch down by the time he like releases the attack.
Yeah, especially post nerf.
You have until the magic or range hits your character to get to the right prayer.
Oh yeah. I understand what you mean. Yeah. And it also allows you to soul split flick a bit easier that way.
Yeah, that adds like even more to it though. Like I tried to soul split flick. It's not hard if you're like if you're doing duo and you're the DPS. It's just ranged magic and soul split flicking. That's really easy. I mean, easy is subjective. People tell me Raksha is the easiest boss they've seen. Once you get used to it,
Yeah, but it's still not going to be the easiest.
No, I mean like the easiest. Like they said, Rax on release was harder. I call BS on that personally.
Well, I think it could be like if you were not a very experienced PVMer when Rax first came out, which I think is the case for a lot of people that are good at PVM now.
The average is better now. Like the average player is better. That's the thing. But like if you were to put yourself, take all the power creep away from the past few years, put yourself back in there with the around the same skills you have now, you would go for Rax in like 2 attempts.
Yeah,
I don't know. I still think Rax is way easier than Raksha, even if you have the exactly same knowledge going into both of them. On release, obviously, it was people knew less, but on release, Rax, I did it when I came back to the game after the boss had been out for maybe a year, but I didn't have that great gear, and I did it on I think I done it on my first attempt by just chucking a whole yak full of food because I knew about mirrorbacks, and that was it.
That's about it though. Like that's all Rax has. Like that can instant kill you basically.
Yeah,
the web is pretty obviously. You hit it once.
Yeah, I hit myself into the web, and I was like, "Crap, I can't hit that." So like, just because I knew the mirrorback, it then was an easy fight. I guess if you didn't know the mirrorback, you would die once, and then you'd probably get it after that. But Raksha like is so much more punishing than that, and the amount of like hard hits on Raksha compared to 0% Rax, even if you're like reflecting yourself, you're not going to insta kill yourself typically at 0%. Whereas Raksha can take a 9k to the face so easily.
Especially with the enrage. When the enrage goes up, even post nerf, by the way, the hits get pretty hard. That's why you have to. For Muncle, a tip. I only learned about it recently, but just clear the pools after you get the message in your chat box. At that point, you're good to go. If you don't, he will like get enraged, and the hits are going to be like 5Ks. You know, if you miss a prey flick, the charge is going to be 7-8Ks, and it's nasty.
The message in your chat box that he's gonna siphon the pools or what?
I'm not sure what the exact message is, but you know the rocks falling between the phases.
Oh, okay. So
and then the first chat message you get,
it's like the shadow grows thicker. Or something.
Thick.
Okay.
Sorry,
but the bladed dive and scythe method for the blobs just makes it so easy.
Yes.
I don't know whether they were expecting that.
I mean, it's not really like it's a pretty obvious thing to use it for. I mean, the bladed dive, scythe and the laceration boots were good for ED3 for the same reason. You know, just the range, you yeet around and like hit so many things at once. I'm not sure how long it took people to figure that out. I think people probably tried it on release hour. Not sure though.
Yeah, I think people started using it a couple hours after release. Like it was widespread knowledge after that.
I mean, imagine not having bladed dive though.
I can imagine.
Oh wait, yeah, I saw your video.
Not having bladed dive is a bummer.
It takes a few hours to get, so
yeah, like 3 hours to get from Shattered Worlds from scratch. It really isn't that bad.
Yeah,
with his gear,
it's worth it, without question.
Yes, for everything. Like literally, I cannot think of many situations I wouldn't use. Like even if you're questing, you just yeet around, surge, bladed dive, double surge if you're double surge. It's really nice.
So I guess my question now is to you, Mr. Protoxx, because when Raksha first came out, I know you made your video on it saying it was very hard and you were upset and you were like disappointed in yourself, I guess.
Yes, myself, not on Jagex. The boss is great.
Yeah. And then like now that you've got your duo kills and then you've got a decent amount of duos, you learn the mechanics, you've got a couple of solos now and such as well. Are you enjoying the boss? Has your opinion changed? And like, if you were gonna like give just a quick rundown of like what you're feeling towards it, etc.
So, overall, I think it's an enjoyable boss if you have the motivation or dedication to get into it. The thing is, I personally don't have much interest in getting into a boss that. Well, right now, the only interest from me in Raksha is either content or money, because the money is good right now. But once those items start to drop, I don't see a reason for me to ever go back.
Will the items drop?
I think over a year they will. Just like, you know,
Do you reckon Ricochet will really drop that hard?
I think Ricochet will probably stabilize at like 250, 200 maybe.
But what you're basing it on is that everyone's going to continue to farm Raksha. What if everyone's like you, where they only done it on release for content and such and had fun, and then they kind of got bored of the try hard of it, and then Chain is going to stay at like 200 mil, and then Ricochet is going to stay at like 600 mil, and the boss stays at 40 mil an hour or something.
If that happens, I will probably get into it later down the line, like solos as well. Right now, I just like duos for the casualness of it. Like I'm too casual. I don't like prey flicking.
Duos is exactly the same DPN hour though, so
yeah, that's the good thing. And then people that enjoy the dodging the mechanics and stuff, more like the swipe, they won't mind. But what I do like about Raksha is the difficulty. But at the same time, there are things that have been fixed, by the way. The melee chomps you can't see. The animation has been fixed. The charge hitbox was really weird. I think that has been fixed as well. The insane rockfall damage, I think that was fixed.
Yeah, that got nerfed.
Yeah, that was just that adds nothing to the fight in my opinion.
It hits like 3Ks now instead of the 4.5 or whatever it hit.
I still died once against them because I just a dumb move. But if you power burst of vitality, you should be good.
Yeah, power burst vitality, and you can use the spell from Livid Farm.
Oh, disruption shield. Yeah, I don't have that.
Disruption shield.
It costs like 100 mil to get in Livid Plants.
Yeah, that's why you just always do Livid Plants. It doesn't cost 100 mil, does it?
It doesn't cost like 1.5 mil every time you buy it. You have to buy it like
10 times or something. It's like 15 mil.
All right, I'm not sure. Like I think I was gonna get it, but then I was like, that is expensive though.
You could also just do Livid Farm.
Yeah,
oh,
that
whoa,
too.
whoa, 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 whoa! That is not an option.
Imagine
That-
doing content. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Imagine actually playing the game as it's supposed to be. Muncle, you have a different view because you like at the time minigames were actually useful. I mean, they are, but like less.
Yeah, Livid Farm wasn't terrible XP at the time when I did it, which was I don't know 2013 or something. It's maybe like 120k overall XP an hour, which now it's like, oh wow, that's such a waste of time. I would rather just spend money on the trader dude and get it that way. But I mean, at the time, it wasn't. You had to do it, if you wanted a comp, and that was the motivation required to bang it out.
I actually used your Livid Farm guide on my comp grind.
Ooh.
Because it was before, obviously, the deep sea merchant and stuff. And I remember looking at your Livid Farm and grinding it out that way and wanting to die, but it was fine.
It's one of those games where it's like it's you get a decent amount of AFK between rounds, but you have to pay enough attention where it's annoying. But I mean, it's also like very rhythm based, and once you get used to it, you can kind of just chill and watch a show or whatever while you're doing it, which is what I did.
Yeah, same.
That's not playing the game.
It's playing the game the way a lot of people play the game.
I know. I was kidding.
Yeah.
Like as if I don't AFK things. Did you see you saw my comment on your guide, right, Maikeru?
Yeah, it was great. It was funny.
Finally, something that was for my skill.
So with like the AFK Corp, like someone was like, "Oh, I really love the AFK methods. Keep it up, or whatever." And then someone commented on the post saying like, "Oh yeah, I love not actually playing a game." And it's like you just thumbed up RuneScape.
And that's a weird thing, though.
RuneScape is about progressing your dude. It's not really about playing.
Yeah, it's like an idle game half the time. Yeah.
How do you explain that to someone IRL though? Like I was AFKing from Maxscape at school, and these people are like, "What's so fun about the game? You're literally clicking every 5 minutes during what the hell are you
It's like
doing?"
a cookie clicker, right? People like cookie clickers.
I think it's easier to explain now that like mobile games are so popular because a lot of mobile games are like that. It's more about like the progress and the achievement than it is like the gameplay.
Oh, speaking of mobile games, no, you guys. I didn't think you guys noticed. No. Yeah, I did a sponsor. Triggered quite a bit of people, I think.
Oh, for which game?
Was it Raid Shadow Legends?
It was Raids. I got like 80 dislikes, dude.
Oh wow.
I mean, to be honest, I'm not like from a financial perspective. For the effort put in compared to the ad revenue, it was definitely worth it.
Well, I mean, Raid Shadow Legends are known for paying a ton of money.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't I wouldn't consider myself a sellout or something. It just
Hello.
You've done a raid stream, haven't you?
Hello. No, I'd never take a Raid sponsorship.
To be honest, I actually didn't mind the game. It was not that bad. I played it. It was like,
Yeah, it's not as bad as expected when I played it on stream. I played it. I was supposed to play it for like 2 hours, and I ended up playing it for like 3.5 because it was actually not bad.
Yeah.
But that's the case with a lot of mobile games. Is like the first couple of hours are pretty fun, and then there's like less and less to do as you keep going. But at that point, you're hooked.
Energy base. You would just do it daily and whatnot. But then again, that's similar to RuneScape.
Literally.
But it's definitely a lot like the amount of microtransactions in games like Raid is stupid. Like it's absolutely mental.
So imagine logging into RuneScape and getting 3 pop-ups for treasure hunt. That's the only thing I dislike, but I couldn't say in the ad. I wanted to give like an honest review, but I had to do like 45 seconds. I had nothing. I couldn't say anything bad because they're the ones paying me. But yeah.
Well, maybe you can do another video and do an honest review after you get paid.
Yeah, that's gonna be the month though. Then I can be honest. Then I can be like, guys, because I saw some comments, but I didn't like to reply to them because I was scared like the people check in and out would like be like, no, dude, you said that you are not getting paid. I don't know, dude. Anyways, back to Raksha.
Yeah, when it comes to release of Raksha, what people were angry with, I don't think was how hard the boss was. It was because they said it was between Araxor and like 100% Telos. So because they instantly put a difficulty on it, everyone had this, imaginary difficulty that they see between Telos and Araxor kind of style. But because it's a of release boss and no mechanics are known, etc., obviously it's going to be harder. Plus, even with the mechanics known, it's harder than 100% Telos, in my opinion. It's probably like 300 or so percent with the mechanics down. And what do you think about Jagex just like not saying how hard a boss is. I think the release of Raksha would have been so much better if they didn't put an artificial weight to it.
Yeah, if they just said like, look, this is going to be the hardest solo boss in game. That adds. I mean, that could be
They
anything.
don't even need to say that though, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to be a difficult solo boss, like, and then don't compare it to anything at all. Just say difficult solo, and then you know it's going to be fairly hard. And then I don't think they would have had to have nerfed it. You know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, the rockfall definitely, like I
I
said,
get the
adds nothing to
rockfall.
the boss
Mhm.
fight. It's BS. I've died way too.
But like the auto attacks and stuff
Yeah.
really didn't need a nerf because if you're doing the boss correctly, you could still easily do it with minimal food or even no food, as long as you
Yep.
were doing your prayer flicks correct and stuff. It was just very punishing when you got it wrong. But I think that's how the boss should be. It still is, but not quite as bad. So I feel like if they didn't aim it at that particular like difficulty, they would have had zero kickback on it. They would have had some kickback where it's like, oh, you're only catering to the elite PVMers or whatever.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
we hadn't had a boss since Solak that was that difficult, you know, which was 2 years ago. So it's understandable to release a hard boss, but
Mm-hmm.
if they didn't put that artificial difficulty, I don't think it would have needed as much attention as what it
Yeah,
had.
yeah, exactly.
I agree. Expectations are kind of like a really tricky thing to manage. I think
Mm,
just in general, if you're not like 100% sure that this is what players are getting, this is what the player experience is going to be, it's probably better just to avoid saying that, making a prediction at all. Because ultimately, that's when people are disappointed and upset, is when their expectations
yeah.
aren't met. So if you don't create any, it's a lot easier to avoid that.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with how they done the boss in other regards, though. I'm a big fan of not revealing any mechanics, not revealing the fight, not revealing the phases, etc. All they done was release a teaser that was like 10 seconds long that showed you the boss like the day before, and you could see him, and you had like the music. So that was really cool because it built up hype, but it didn't give away any of the fights. So when you went in, if you went in, for your first time, it's always blind. No one had an advantage, and I think that's amazing. So I think they should do it more like that in the future, where they might tease, "Oh, look, there's some codexes coming out," and then it's like, "Oh, that's cool." No one knows what they are until the release, and they didn't showcase any of the fight because with Solak, I'm pretty sure they showed like the whole of phase 1 and 2.
Wow. I don't remember actually. I'm glad they at least said what the drops were. If they didn't say anything like with AOD, that would have been
I
annoying.
liked that though.
Oh, really? Like, I would rather know like what category of item it is, but not know what it is. That was good.
Yeah, but the thing with AOD was they said, "Hey, there'll be new prayers," and then they also sneaked in the appraisals. So you already knew the prayers, but that excitement of a brand new weapon coming alongside it was even more hype.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't really do that now with the boss logs because you can't hide something,
Exactly.
but they did hide the spike though. They didn't say there was going to be anything to upgrade the boots until the boss was released. So I thought that was hype as well, because when I looked at the log, I was expecting to see some boots, some codexes, and I also saw this spike that I was like, you can upgrade your boots now? That's Pog, that's really cool. And then
Mm-hmm.
that generates even more hype by not revealing it until the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say I'm more on the side of not revealing stuff, because I remember
Mhm.
back when God War's Dungeon first came out, and I believe Jagex did reveal what the items were going to be beforehand. But I think the community was like a lot less interconnected back then. There was just like a lot less content online and people didn't pay
Yeah.
attention to it as much. So a lot of people had absolutely no idea what the bosses were dropping, and there was no log either. And there was a
Mhm.
GE where you could look up what an item is, but if you don't know what you're looking for, you have no idea what to type in. So people would say stuff like, I don't know, Armadillo drops like a crossbow or something, which we have an Armadillo crossbow now, but there wasn't at the time. And it was just, I don't know, it was the unknown, I think really added
Yeah.
a lot to the release of that boss in particular. So I'm more on I'm more on the side of keeping as much as you can hidden. I know with the log, it's tricky because the second the boss comes out, you just open up your log and you're like, oh, this is exactly what it drops. But um, at least if you're not showing off everything in the release trailer, there's some mystery to it.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think they done it wrong with Solak and they done it wrong with like Elite Dungeons 3. Because like I remember they done an Elite Dungeons 3 stream and then they revealed the Eldritch crossbow. They revealed what the special attack was going to do and like everything. And you're like, what? Like, where's the sense of like, wow, this is cool. Like, I know what to get now. Like, I know what I'm expecting. It's just annoying. And then everyone was already theory crafting everything before the boss was even released, and you're like, come on, man, like just give us a mystery.
Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but I play Hearthstone a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this do as well. But for those who don't, it's like it's a card game where new cards are released every 4 months via an expansion, and you get to build your deck. And it used to be that like the theory crafting wasn't as much of a thing, and when an expansion came out, it was so much more fun because people were just playing random janky decks and you had no idea what was good and no idea what to expect, and it like took a while for things to be figured out. But now we've gotten to the point where everything is theory crafted before an expansion comes out, and people generally have a good idea of what the best deck is going to be. And there's nowhere near as much mystery. So like a new release of cards used to be my favorite thing in the game, and now it's just like we'll get new stuff to do, but you kind of already know what it does and how to use it before it comes out. So
yeah,
it's
annoying.
it's definitely a lot better to like with the Eldritch crossbow, like there's a new crossbow, right? Because you can check the log, but you wouldn't know about the special attack, or you wouldn't know like how effective it is.
Oh, like so, yeah.
So there would still be like some mystery if you kept that a secret.
That's a comparison I didn't expect to like be mentioned. Hearthstone.
Well, it's like the main game I play other than RS, so there you go.
Okay.
Plus, it makes sense because there's so much theory crafting that go into trading card games. So revealing the cards early just gives everyone a time to like put stuff together. Whereas if it's released without saying anything, then like everyone has to scramble and be like, "Wow, how is this going to work? What is this new mechanic, etc."
Well, they kind of have to release stuff early just because I mean, much like RS, but I think even to an even greater extent, a digital card game like relies so much on streamers and content creators, and they need like pre-release expansion stuff to cover and talk about. So that's why they do it.
Yeah, fair. So when it comes to boss releases in general, a lot of people say they only cater to like the high tier PVMers, which I personally disagree with because like Elite Dungeons, in my opinion, are like the more casual players. Like I know Elite Dungeon 3, like Ambassador as a boss is fairly hard to solo, but even with ED3, you got ED3 trash runs, which is like the most noob friendly thing that has been released. It's way too overpowered, but it is noob friendly. And then you also have like ED2, which is probably the easiest elite dungeon. And then you have the harder bosses mixed in like Solak and Raksha. And I think they do it in a good way. And I feel like they get too much like negative feedback from the people that may not be able to do a boss and then they get angry. But like for me, I don't feel like if they released a boss that was like Gold Dungeon 2 difficulty, there'd be any point in spending dev time on that because we have so much power creep come in constantly, not just from PVM, but from everywhere else, like archaeology, etc. as well, Invention, whatever. And we need something to use it on. Raksha was the perfect example of that because so many people going for their speed kills, so many people were improving their setups, fine tuning it. So many items have increased because of Raksha release because more people getting into the higher tier PVM.
You mean range?
I think that's what's needed. Not just range.
Or
melee items have gone up as well because melee's still good there now after the affinity fix.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And even mage you'll see an increase slightly. It won't be as much as range, but you will see an increase because people still mage, and it's like probably the most noob friendly one, I guess. Because range is great if you have like high tier stuff and you're like using swaps. It's like really, really, really good. Whereas it's only like decent if you're just camping Ascensions with Ruby back bolts and you're doing minimal effort. You're going to do nearly as good with range, with mage. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't understand the hate. Like everyone says, mage is like trash and doesn't work anymore. But a tier 90 mage weapon will still do very good. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Sure, it's not like I think at some point Mage used to be the best. I think around Virago.
Yeah, it was the best for a long time.
The Greater Chain didn't change that much, but that was a little sad. But it's still good for Slayer, but that's about it. Or like minion bosses.
Yeah, it's really good for Hellhounds. So a lot of clue people are
Hellhounds, hey.
People used to camp Seismics for the entire KK kill, and they wouldn't even change styles because it was so good. The accuracy was good enough to hit even through the melee and range phases. So Mage has had its time in the sun in this game for sure.
Yeah, and that's why people are calling Mage trash now, I guess, because it used to be top dog and now it's like bottom dog. But it's not bottom dog by as much as what it used to be top dog by, if that makes sense. So like,
yes. Good comparison.
When it comes to PVM now, I think it's the most balanced it ever has been. If you take away Greater Ricochet, it's kind of skewed it a little bit for range. But before that, range was the best DPS for the most lean forward gameplay. It still is, even with Greater Ricochet, but now it's even further ahead a bit. Melee is like the middleman, a decent amount of input and very, very, very good burst DPS, decent DPS over time. Not quite as good as range. And then mage is the worst, but it's the probably easiest, and it also requires like the less SWAT switches, and it doesn't have like a billion spec weapons compared to the others. So
Exactly.
I think it's really, really well balanced, and a lot of people like complain that this style is too bad. And I see so many people still calling range trash, and it's absolutely amazing to see because so many people that are so used to mage being king are like, oh, but range sucks. It's like, I don't know, it definitely doesn't. It's just lovely to see that people have these like opinions, and there's such a broad range of what people like, and it doesn't really matter if you go PVM with someone if they're using a particular style. Because back in the day, I'd say like 3 years ago, if someone was using range when I went PVM with them, I'd like, unless it was Nex, I'd be like, there's not, it's kind of stupid using range here.
Same.
Melee and mage is so much better. But like now, if someone goes with range, I'm like, oh, they're perfect. Ruby back bolts, ascensions,
Exactly,
or
yeah.
Terran God bow, whatever, and it's amazing. It's really good.
Exactly.
I think there's also kind of a tendency because, like, especially when you get to higher tier PVM, it's all about doing like optimal DPS, getting the fastest kills possible. So there's a tendency to call stuff that's like slightly less than optimal trash, even if it's very, very good. And it's, yeah, I mean, I think that's just kind of the way people talk now. It's not necessarily good or bad. It's just something is either good or trash, and those are the two options.
Oh, dude, that's such a good thing to say, dude. That's like, I agree. Like, there's no in between. There's like, it's either like the equivalent, like the opposite of trash is perfect. I think, or like not like extremely good.
Yeah.
And it's good and trash. There's no like bad or slightly worse, or it's just that word trash.
Yeah, because like in reality, the only thing that's trash is, I don't know, using like tier 1 weapons or fists. Like that would be in reality trash. But yeah, when the expectation is like the fastest kill possible, the best DPS possible, if you're using something that can't attain that, then it's trash for the purposes of what you're going for.
People underestimate just how much a rotation and utilizing as much of your adren and using particular food and stuff like that really impacts your kills as well, because the amount of people that I see that are like, oh, this style is so bad, but then they're using like goddamn binding shot #1 on their revo bar, piercing shot #2 on their revo bar, and then they have like snipe, and their needle strike is like #7 and it never gets used. And you're like, well, obviously that's the reason why that style is being bad for you. So a lot of time, I think people just go in very uneducated, and then they're very quick to call something trash as well. So you have the end of it being either like the elitists looking at it where it's like, if it's not perfect, it's trash, or the people that go into it thinking that it's going to be amazing because they've been told it's amazing, but they go into it wrong and then they call it trash.
Like having greater barge and not utilizing the bleed.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Bad ability. Very bad.
That ability is so good.
Dude, it is busted, man. I like it so much. It just, that single ability makes melee fun. Like without it, I can't imagine melee. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's something else.
But the same applies to range for me. I think Eldritch is what makes range fun for me. I love prayer flicking. I love making sure I'm trying to be as optimal as I can by utilizing as much adrenaline as I can during that special attack, and then ending it off with like a dark blow or something. Like, it just feels awesome to really utilize that spec, and I think that's what makes range fun for me as well, alongside Greater Barge making melee awesome.
Muncle, do you have Greater Barge, Muncle, or?
No, I haven't upgraded any abilities yet.
Yeah, don't worry about it just yet. I'm not sure what your cash stack is looking like right now, but it do be kind of expensive though.
Yeah, I know those are kind of more end game. I would probably rather aim for like at least all tier 90 weapons and all styles first.
Yeah,
and then we'll worry about that.
Would be more versatile kind of thing. Then you can like do all kinds of bosses.
Yeah, because I like maging. It's nice and relaxing and easy to do, and It's still
Exactly.
useful some places.
A Slayer, though there are not many tasks you would use magic over
I
melee.
don't use magic at all for Slayer.
Magic is also the only combat style I'm not 120 in, so
Ah, there you go.
Ah,
Nice.
it would be nice to get that. One thing I did want to talk about is you guys kind of mentioned not having as many lower tier or easier bosses
Mhm.
that are released lately. But I was just kind of looking through the boss log, and most of these bosses, almost all of them, in fact, are either low or mid tier bosses. We really don't have that much end game content, you know? Um, and I kind of agree that, like, with we're getting new abilities, we're getting new perks through invention, we're getting better weapons, better gear. There does need to be a place to utilize that, because outside of
Mm.
like grinding for pets, doing God War's Dungeon 2 kills isn't really that fun or engaging. After 100 KC, you pretty much have it down. There's not too much more to learn or too much more to challenge yourself. Um, the one thing that I'm not a huge fan of is solo bosses that are really hard. I mean, with Raksha, you do have the opportunity to duo, so it's not purely a solo boss. Um, but for me personally, I really like the kind of difficulty level of Araxor for solo, because it's challenging initially, and then later on as you push for either speed kills or the highest in rage possible. But it's not something that requires like all of your focus. It doesn't require like um, the best
exactly.
gear and constant switches to get decent kills at. So I don't know how I feel about that in terms of a solo boss, just because anytime you do any solo content, it's just so much more grindy than doing group, because you're not doing it with friends, you're not chatting with people. I don't know. It's just a lot more of a grind. So adding all these mechanics that you have to worry about, and adding a high difficulty level makes it even more so of a grind.
See, I'm the opposite of that personally. I feel like scaling bosses are the way to go. So I feel like what Solak is now and what they plan on doing in the future with like Solak style, I think is what they were saying if they do group bosses, like elite dungeons as well, for example, stuff that you can choose to go do maybe on your own or in duo, and then it goes all the way up to 7-man for Solak, right? So every time you go with different people, it might not be quite as optimal as going in a duo or going in as a 7-man or something. But you can go with 4 people, you can go with 5 people, you can go with 6 people. It doesn't matter. So I feel like bosses like that are the way to go. I think they should have a solo or duo mode for the people that don't have others to go with, and they might just have their select 1 or 2 friends that they play with all the time. They get to play with those. Then also the people that want to group with everyone else have the 7-man option, because I do agree with like solo bosses being more grindy, but for some people hate the aspect of potentially going to try and find a group and being met with a lot of like requirements and being told they're not good enough or whatever. So they like to do it on their own, which obviously isn't always the best way to play, but I feel like that's a good option to have for the people that are more like of a solo player.
Muncle, Maikeru, there was a poll in 2017 where pretty much 90% said they wanted like solo duo bosses.
Yeah.
No one wants raids, but like 10-man content apparently. So that kind of like proves your point from a data perspective.
I feel like scaling is the way to go for sure, because it just makes everyone happy, right?
Yes, but how many like could you skill Raksha?
I mean, solo and duo for Raksha is completely fine in my opinion. I don't think it needs like a group mode, because I don't think it's as hard of a boss to need that.
No.
But I mean, they could have if they wanted to, because they made it solo and duo. Why not just triple the HP for a trio? It would work. They could make it go up to as many as they want, because they don't change the mechanics. They just add extra HP.
Yeah, okay. Actually, good. Now I kind of want to do like a boss mass Raksha, dude.
The only issue is with Raksha, the way the loot works, you get double the loot in duos. They couldn't make it go up to like 5-man, because you get 5 times the loot and the loot would be worthless.
Yeah, okay, yeah, but then you have to split the drop, so. But yeah, there would be more coming into the game, kind of thing. Way too many, probably. Actually, no,
Yeah,
wait.
so the loot system only really works in solo and duo for Raksha.
If you had the same health, but you had 5 people killing it, it would be much shorter kills. And then having, just the one man loot would make more sense, because you have the trade off of faster kills with 5 people, but you have to split the loot 5 ways.
But you would skip so many mechanics if it was just like insta phasing. if that makes sense.
Well, that's the fun of massing, right?
Yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah.
Massing KK, man.
I love doing that just to watch people die.
Oh, dark, dude. Dark monk. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's
That's the biggest
great.
fun. People dying at mage phase, first kill. They don't know what's going on. They just get boomed.
Yeah.
Rip, dude.
It's
The amount of balls that come out on those mage phases when you have like 40 people is just absurd.
I know.
Especially because it can throw 2 if it does like a wild magic and stuff like that. So if it does wild magic, it throws out 80 bombs if there's 40 people.
It's beautiful, dude. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful.
I'm a big fan of like the mid-tier bosses for solo. And maybe that can be the primary focus, but I really like, if you're gonna do the most difficult mechanics, the hardest boss fights, the longest boss fights, personally I think those are more fun if they're a group boss.
Mhm.
And maybe that's not the general consensus in RS, but I'm thinking about like, World of Warcraft was probably the most popular MMO ever, and the entire appeal of that game is mostly these really large group raids. So, I mean, it's not that people who play MMOs are inherently against it. I mean, there is a market for it. It's just maybe in
Mhm, yeah.
RS we're so used to like almost everything you do in this game is solo content, and we don't have, I mean, there are definitely good PVM clans and stuff out there, but maybe for the average person they don't have that. So just due to the fact that we're so used to solo stuff, maybe that's why we aren't as drawn
Yeah.
to bosses like that.
I could see that being the case. And just because of the nature of getting 10 people together versus just going with a friend or two, it's just a lot more effort, and a lot of people hate engaging in that when it comes to trying to get into a boss that requires 7 people versus trying to get into a boss that's, duo. It's going to take you a much longer time to find, 6 friends to go with versus 1 mate, I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
The setup time.
World of Warcraft is based around that, right? Like your guilds in World of Warcraft are based on raiding, and then your sole purpose is to meet at 7 o'clock every day to go do your raid or whatever.
Yeah.
I agree that there's definitely a market there, but I think RS needs to try and tune into the market of like you can do what you want when you want. Because I think that's the big thing, big appeal with RuneScape. You can pick it up, play it for an hour, put it down, go play something else, go do something else,
Or maybe if there were more large team bosses, we'd have to come up with like a better way to get people to group. Because like WoW has a raid finder.
If they made a better grouping system, 100%, 100%, yeah. That could probably solve it. If they did make something like that and then made like big group bosses, I don't think I'd be against it.
Did you said an hour a day, by the way? The average player plays a little more. I did a poll recently.
Yeah, fair. I'm just saying it. You can do that.
Oh yeah. There's definitely people that do.
Are you calling out my poll answer?
Wait, hold up, you voted as well, or?
I voted for like the 1 to 2 hours or something.
Yeah, 1 to 3. Yeah, I didn't
1 to
check.
3.
I did read through the comments, but there were so many people. I was actually more curious about the votes itself, like the percentages.
Oh, did the 1 to 3 win?
1 to 3 has 30%. 0 to 1 is 28.
The 0 to 1 is the people that just do dailies and then log off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of people that said like, wait, 8 hours plus has 14%, dude. That's insane, though.
I mean, RuneScape is one of those grindy games, though, right? You can expect, especially with right now, like there's a lot of people that either work from home or don't work right now with like,
Yeah.
COVID and everything.
Mhm.
That number would be lower if it wasn't for the pandemic. I'm imagining there's a lot of people that are working from home and they have RS open on another tab or on another computer, and they're just like AFKing, hopefully AFKing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have asked for like active hours because it probably would be lower. I don't think there's people that can like physically sit down and actively play this game for longer than a few
Actively
hours.
hardcore PVMing 10 hours a day.
I mean, there are people that definitely do that.
My brain for like continuously focusing on PVM for more than like 5 hours, it goes
Yeah.
to mush.
Dude, the Raksha release, man, they killed me. I did 5 hours, right? That's a little more than average for me, and I got a massive headache. It continued into the second day. It was really bad. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I streamed Raksha release for like 7 hours.
Holy
and
dude.
like, yeah, my brain was just fried at the end of it. I completely feel you on that one because it's so focus intensive, especially that boss.
Yep.
So when you're doing such a focus intensive thing and then also trying to interact with chat and stuff on top of that, it just adds so much. And I don't know how people like Evil Lucario do it. Like he streamed for like 12 hours on release. It's absolutely absurd. Like that man is a machine.
I was gonna say I have a theory. He's not human anyway. He's a fucking PVMing machine, dude. He I don't know how long it took him to know food. Probably like 2 hours or something. But it was It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
it was like 2.5 hours, and he got a no food kill.
Dude,
Yeah.
he's just like an algorithm trying to find the quickest way to something. You know, like a
Yeah.
program and every little corner that has a dead end, he just skirts and remembers it, and then damn, dude.
Yeah, any new content release is rough on a content creator. I think Rax wasn't so bad for me because my goal wasn't to get a lot of kills. My goal was to get like the first guide uploaded to YouTube, which I think I did have like the first guide with like gear setups and going over all the mechanics and stuff, which is probably super outdated now. But at the time, because I think I only did like 3 kills to get enough footage. And then I just spent the rest of the day like putting that guide together, and I uploaded it like 2 or 3 days after release.
Nice.
So
I was planning to do that Raksha, like a first kill guy, but I feel like I'd get judged too much, especially because I made a post, and I think that's a copy paste at this point, about ranting about Raksha. So it's kind of weird if I would make a guide now. Like I'm not exactly the person for a guide, but I know what to do, but it's just execution is my
I
problem.
found the earlier you make the guide, the
funny.
more forgiveness you have because people understand. And also, like a lot of people looking up a guide really early on, they don't care about like being perfectly optimal yet. They just want to see how to get a kill.
Yeah, they want to get 1 kill for their Reaper back or whatever.
Yep. I mean, you could just duo it. To be honest, if anyone's watching and you want to kill, try and get someone who like knows what they're doing base for you. That way, you can if you can get to P4 or to P3 by yourself, you could get a kill in duo as the DPS probably.
Yeah, duo is much more forgiving when you're the DPS.
Yeah.
Obviously, you still need to make sure you're doing a decent amount of damage, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't advise doing Raksha if you can't DPS.
Yeah.
Because
Don't-
it's a high tier boss, right?
Don't even attempt it without 290s.
Uh-oh.
No
Yeah.
overloads, just forget it. I don't know what it does if you don't have overloads, but it has an overload drain. I wonder what happens.
Yeah, so it drains your stats.
Oh.
I think whenever a boss has a overload drain, it normally drains your stats if you don't have an overload, like racks and stuff.
Yeah, yikes. That's
Or alternatively, you could do what I'm going to continue to try to do next week when I have time to play and get a friend who can do good DPS and has good gear, and then I'm just going to focus on tanking and doing whatever damage I can.
That works too.
but
That works too, yeah.
Learning the mechanics that way instead of just dying on phase 2 every kill.
Learning in duo is so much more enjoyable as well because
Yes.
you have a friend that you can meme around with. Like the amount of times I done duos, and I done it with Protoxx, and I'll let the clip play right now, like for the viewers, where he immortalities.
Kill me, quick! I have like 2 seconds on my immort. There we go. Oh no!
That immortality, dude, that just made that so much better. It wasn't optimal to immortality at all. You were DPS, you shouldn't have run out of food, but you did because it was memes, it's whatever. And then the man just gets slapped straight back down. Like, it's just so more enjoyable with a friend that you can be around with. We still got the kill, and we got a greater chain at the end of the kill, so it's Pog. But
dude, that was so good.
it's just more enjoyable and just a great time. And I think that's a big part of like learning as well. If you're learning on your own, you get frustrated at yourself. If you're learning with a friend, you can have fun by just memeing it or like, seeing the lighthearted side of mistakes. And it's much easier to judge yourself when you're on your own versus with people.
I thought you were going to say getting frustrated at your friend.
I mean, I guess you could. It depends on what type of person you are. If you get frustrated at your friend, don't do it in duo. Yeah.
Probably, yeah, solo at least until you know what you're doing.
That was totally worth. Dude, that was probably one of the funniest moments since this month. So.
Well, it's a
That's great.
win-win because either you pull off the immortality and it works and you look like a genius, or you don't and you die in a really embarrassing way, and that's also a good clip.
Yeah, exactly. It's still content.
Exactly. Yeah. That honestly, if I would have survived, it would have not been as funny, I think. So.
Yeah. But when it comes to the next bosses they release, which is Goals Dungeon 3,
hopefully
they said they are gonna do it like Goals Dungeon 2, where the ones on the outside can be masked and that they can be done easier by mid-tier to like semi-high tier. Then the one in the middle they want to make like the hardest boss, like Telos. But I don't think they wanted to make it solo. I think it was like a trio. But I don't know whether they're gonna change their mind on that because I was told that at 2019 RuneFest. It's been a year since then. There's been a lot of changes. When they were doing it then, they had it aimed at a trio middle boss. But with all of the feedback and stuff they've had, maybe they'll make it like a solo, duo, trio scaling boss or something. I think I'd like that more personally.
Same.
We'll have to see what they do. But that boss in the middle, they wanted to make the hardest that has ever been released. But I think that would be fine because you'd have the more casual PVMers happy with the ones on the outside. They can make money there. And then the big hardcore PVMers can go in the middle and do the big boss.
That would definitely be ideal. And if it is it going to be 4 for the outside one on the middle? Okay. In that case, I would not even. I would probably leech the middle boss off 2 friends anyways if it was trio. So I know enough people that are more than competent enough that can like make up for me messing up things. So that would be fun for me because at least I could get a taste, of what it's like.
I wonder what the easy bosses are going to drop because God Wars Dungeon 1 they dropped tier 70 armor and weapons, and then 2 they dropped tier 85-ish armor and weapons. So the next step is 90.
Yeah, or they could potentially drop like tier 87.
Maybe hybrid armor or like more abilities or the boots. Maybe like gloves, like nightmare gauntlets, but then for ranged. For magic and melee because we don't have those.
Like an ability enhancing gear.
Yeah, ability enhancing. Yeah.
The only problem with that is because then you have so many. Actually, maybe this isn't a bad thing. You have so many different gear options for ability enhancing. It's like, what do I wear? So hopefully that doesn't just mean that like one piece of gear is optimal everywhere and the others are useless.
But that is what it is right now. That's like Cinderbanes. The only one that has an alternative to Cinderbanes other than like a Death Touch bracelet or saying if the thing's not poisonable is range with the Nightmare Gauntlets.
Yeah.
So if they did make that for melee and range, I guess you just have the Nightmare Gauntlet alternative to Cinderbanes instead of just having to be forced to use a Death Touch bracelet or something.
Yeah. Maybe like a moving Asphyx.
That'd be interesting.
I want a mutated Conk Blast.
Yeah.
To allow you to bleed your Asphyx, but
well, not bleeding your Asphyx with the Concentrated Blast.
That'd be nice.
Concentrated Blast would just be like Mutated Fury, where instead of hitting 3 times, it hits once, and then it's also a little bit stronger and gives you a higher chance of the guaranteed crit.
What would I would think like an ability that allows you to bleed your Asphyx would add to some nice damage.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be Mutated Concentrated Blast that had that. It'd be something else.
Yeah, like mutated whack. I don't know.
Mutated Surge.
Dude, imagine surging and then that would be so weird, just yeeting around the arena and they're like, yeah, now I can bleed my Asphyx. Imagine that the ambassador, dude.
What if we get duo armor instead of hybrid? Because currently we have armor that's good for 1 style or all 3, but we don't have armor that's good for 2 styles.
That would actually be quite cool as
that's
well.
Like better than hybrid, but not quite as good as solo style.
A lot of people duo like take 2 styles. For like example with Solak, yeah, it's like mage and melee or range and melee or whatever. So like taking a 2 like hybrid item better than a trio hybrid item would be cool.
I like it
because I don't know how often you actually need hybrid armor, like DKs maybe, but other than that, where are you using all 3 styles?
Kiln. And that's it, right?
Oh yeah, and Kiln.
Kiln is. I wouldn't say it's kind of like once you have the capes, once you have the pet, it's dead content.
It's okay money now with the Hornix.
Yeah.
And you just use obby armor for that. You don't need hybrid gear.
Yeah,
but it does. If you use different combat styles, you have more deeps because of the strength bonus.
Yeah, but the Obsidian is hybrid, is what Muncle meant. Like you can use that as budget hybrid.
Yeah, you just make the 3 helms, and then the regular armor is hybrid.
Yeah, true.
How do you guys feel about balancing, like releasing a tier 95 weapon? Because it's outclasses everything else, obviously, outside of like spec weapons. How do you feel about balancing it by making it like insanely expensive to use? Because that's how they balance the scythe in old school. The scythe is the best weapon to use against anything that's more than 1 square, right? But the upkeep cost is insane, so you can't just use it everywhere.
I dislike expensive items personally. I don't like gold sinks, but I do like that idea.
What about like an upgrade item so that it makes your Eldritch crossbow into a tier 95 Eldritch crossbow? So you still need the Eldritch crossbow for it. It still has the Eldritch crossbow spec. It's still useful, but it just deals more damage.
You mean like the Wildy Worm thing where they use like Staff of Lights and Abbey Whips and stuff, but then with a higher tier weapon is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Or like how Masterwork Spear goes into Trim Masterwork Spear, instead of giving it the extra effect, it's just
that's
like
perfect.
A higher tier.
Because it makes lower tier money making methods. I mean, Eldritch Crossbow, it would make them more profitable again.
Yeah.
That being said, ECB is like $2 billion now. I don't know what's going on, dude.
Yeah.
These people are crazy.
I mean, all PVM items are going up because of Raksha release and people wanting to get into high tier PVM and range being really, really, really strong right now, etc. So
Please nerf. I'm kidding. Please don't.
the only downside of that is like it's a lazy way to do it as well, because it'd be cool to have new spec weapons in the game, and because of having Essence of Finality, you can put an Eldritch in an Essence and you can get the spec kind of thing, right? So the way they need to do it is just continue releasing like really cool abilities and continue releasing like good special attacks, especially with Essence of Finality now being a thing. They can even release, the Gold Dungeon 3 outside bosses. They don't have to drop amazing tier weapons. They could still drop tier 85.
But then
But
specs.
the specs could have a decent use. So then when you put them in an Essence of Finality, that spec is now a tier 92 that can be really, really utilized in X, Y, and Z situation.
I like that actually. Yeah, no. I'm completely convinced there. That's a very good argument, dude.
Yeah, so I feel like they've done a good basis of covering their grounds of like future releases with stuff they've made recently, and I think they've always done a good way to make old things relevant. Like Tectonic's still relevant with the tier 92 Tectonic because it's still required in its process of making. Same with Serenic and Trim Masterwork, and even necks, armors, and normal energy from rots. Like everything is still used in the process of future things. So yeah, the Essence of Finality helps old specs still be relevant, etc. So they're very, very good in that. There's not many games where content from 15 years ago is still useful. So yeah, they need to keep doing that stuff and it'll be great. And I think it'll be really, really good. And another thing they can even do at bosses, I know I'm like completely going crazy right here, but yeah.
No, go on.
They could drop like an item that could be used in a relic for archaeology.
Why didn't I think of that? That's 5 head, dude. That's absolutely 5. Just an item, not even a weapon.
So they don't have to drop things that directly equip on your character, but things that affect your character in a PVM standpoint that can be sold and used and whatever, right? It doesn't have to directly be a new weapon, etc.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it depends on what your goal for releasing new bosses is. Is it just like to increase the amount of gear, the amount of bank space that you have, the amount of switches that you have, or is it to increase like ability diversity? Like maybe different abilities are useful different places, or like you said, the archaeology relic that's offers more options. Or another one could be like bosses drop a weapon that's, I don't know, like tier 85, tier 90 or something. It can be decent for lower level players, but for higher level players, you can disassemble it and get materials to make a new perk.
New perks, that's another one. Yeah, so there's so many different things they can do now that still make everything relevant. That's why Vindicta's so good, right? Because of perks. So another really good point there with the perk. So they just need to continue doing stuff like that, and I think it'll be absolutely fantastic.
Basically, they don't even need to go up the weapon tier, which is quite funny if you think about it. They can make so much stuff without. That being said, I hope they don't release. Greater Ricochet kind of encourages switchscape. You can get Coroming for Equilibrium too, which is what I'm going to do. But the Coroming switch is now, for Greater Ricochet, if you want the big deeps, you're going to have to use a switch.
But that's the thing, right? Like, you don't have to.
No, exactly. It gives you an option.
Yeah, so I think that's completely fine. It encourages switchscape, yes. But if you're not like a super high-end PVMer and you just want to have fun with a new ability, you don't need to switch. It's still going to be fine with different perk setups and different ways of playing. So it's good all round. Like, just because 1% of the player base or even less are going to use it as a switch doesn't mean that ability is not going to be good for other people as well.
I mean, the base ability is pretty disgusting already.
Yeah, like even if you don't even have Karam in it, it's still a DPS increase. So like the ability is still worth it from a standpoint of, even if you have a greater Ricochet and you just use it without Karam in your rotation as a basic, it's still going to be a super strong basic. So
yeah.
Just from that regard, it's still really, really good.
Yeah, I really like how it is now, where switching is not required to kill anything. You can kill every boss in the game without switching once, but it's more for the players that want to be competitive and get the fastest kills and be involved on whatever leaderboard. Then that's an option for them. And players like that generally have a lot of money and are willing to pay good money in order to continue being competitive. So it allows people who are just camping the boss, casual or for money or whatever, to still profit
Yeah.
It's really neat.
And the good thing about abilities is they leave the game. So they always have a value. Obviously, to some extent, the abilities, there'll be so many in the game that it will go lower. But a big example of like just how good ability codexes are is raids. The amount
No.
of Mazcab ability codexes that have entered the game is absurd. And it's still going up in price.
But it went down to like when in 2016 it was like 10 mil when you could like farm the abyss using the ability.
Yeah.
At the time that was good. It's not really that good anymore to do. I mean, yeah, it is, but like you can get more XP doing like 83, for example. But yeah, it's, what is it now? Is it like
30 odd?
It's 31 and going up.
Wow. Okay. I have sold one for 45 before, like a year ago or something. I
So
don't know.
obviously there is going to be peaks on different items, but the thing is, like, whenever a new piece of content PVM related is released, or whenever new people come back to the game, that's one of the big things that they want to get, an ability that increases their DPS passively. And
without
the
doing
fact that
anything.
that's 31 mil, when like 3 years ago when I used to do raids, it was like 10 mil. Just in general, the way that it maintains its value and actually goes up slowly over time is just in itself showcasing how good dropping abilities is in terms of an economy standpoint and how, for the game,
Mm-hmm. You trying to
I
merch?
think part of that is because like corruption shot and blast are like such foundational amazing abilities for almost everywhere, almost every player. So if like a really situational ability codex that's only useful at a couple of bosses was released, I don't know if it would maintain its value quite that well over time.
Oh yeah, that's definitely true. Like Reprisal from Telos, that has not maintained its value anywhere near as good as that because it's not as good of an ability. But even with that being said, like it's still maintained its value somewhat because even though an abundance enter the game, an abundance leave the game. And the cheaper it becomes, the more people will end up buying it, even if it's just this little situation one, which then causes it to go up again.
I mean, and Reprisal is 70 mil. It's not like nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for a drop from Telos, that's pretty meh.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
Like an orb is like 400, right?
Yeah.
Virtual value 400.
Yeah, so obviously it's like the worst drop at Telos for that reason of it being not that amazing of an ability. But even that very niche ability that not that many people actually have.
I don't think people even know it exists, to be honest.
Yeah, that being 70 mil speaks wonders on like maintaining value with abilities though. And that's why when you said like, oh, Raksha might not be as good in, months time or whatever. The abilities, when they're good abilities, they maintain that value pretty well. It will go down. I don't think Greater Ricochet will always be 600 mil.
It's going up now. But like what?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
What?
Like,
Yeah,
because people were expecting it to get nerfed in the first week and it didn't, so now people are buying it.
Please don't nerf Jagex. If you're listening, they're probably not. I will use Greater Ricochet with Karoming, dude. On the next J mod that nerf. That was not a threat, by the way.
I think Chain's gone up as well because they were
150.
they were in talks about potentially making it like Greater Ricochet.
Wait, what? You trying to merch, bro?
No, they like mentioned it on Twitter or something, and then that caused it to go up a bit. I don't think I have no idea whether they're going to, and I don't think they're going to. But if they do, then that Greater Chain is going to be just as expensive as Ricochet, honestly.
I might actually have to consider getting it just because I do want to make a testing video, but I was like, 110 mil is a little too much. I'll wait till it's 50.
Rip. And then it went back up.
150. Wait, laughing. We sold one for 110, right? Dude, if you just sold it like a day later, I don't know.
No, our chain was like 130.
But still, though, 20 mil. That's a lot of money for me, dude.
Oh.
You just casually giving away 2 bill, dude, or something. Was it?
Yeah, I gave away like 2.5 bill yesterday. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I only merch my viewers. I never help them.
Dude, I think you've done more bill giveaways than pretty much any other content creator in history. I think. It must be.
I think there's a lot of the Duel Arena content creators that do tons of giveaways on stream that have given away more than me for sure.
Oh,
like Zilandra and Bushy have given away more than I have.
Oh, okay.
But I've given a decent amount, obviously.
A decent amount, dude. Decent.
I'm doing a Christmas giveaway as well on YouTube, so I'm giving away even more money. Another like 500 mil, 10 people, 50 mil or something. Yeah,
I'll put my name in the hat.
Dude,
it sounds good. Yeah,
need that money, dude. Can you hear a background noise, by the way? It's like a
Nah.
Okay, good.
What's wrong? What's happened?
Like a shower, like water.
Someone's in the shower.
Yep. It isn't me. Oh, speaking of Muncle, how does it feel to do Raksha with like I'll say in inches, like 4 inches of water in your feet, like in the water?
Well, my living room isn't flooded, just my bathroom.
That's crazy that your bathroom floods.
Yeah, dude, what the hell, man? That's really messed up. I would get that fixed, but it's expensive. Probably.
It's not like the toilet flooding. It's the retaining wall because the foundation is cracked.
So the wall itself floods.
Yeah. Well, when it gets really wet.
That's still bad.
It's actually it's pretty common in older houses that are built on like really clay soil that doesn't retain water very well.
Okay.
I took a whole like class on this on like I mean the class wasn't necessarily on construction engineering. It was just more on soil processes, but we talked a lot about how to protect your foundation from expanding soils, and now I'm living it.
That's what feels bad, man.
I studied construction engineering.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
So you'd know how to avoid all of this.
Yes and no. My school was really bad. I did construction engineering, but not like a bachelor's degree. I did something just below that. Here it's MBO. And then HBO is not the TV channel, but it's a bachelor's or associate's degree.
You go watch Game of Thrones.
Dude, Game of Thrones is such a good series. I'm going to rewatch it soon, dude.
Maikeru, what did you major in?
So I have a qualification in teaching and supporting children with special educational needs.
Okay.
I taught special ed like in small groups, like 6 to 8 people. And then I'd like help them with reading, writing, maths, IT, whatever.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Awesome.
I did that I did it as like a support assistant. So I'd have a 1-to-1 thing while doing my qualification. So I'd help the kids on a 1-to-1 basis with extra support for like 2 years while I was getting my qualification. Then when I got my qualification, I then taught in small groups for like another 2 years. And then I got made redundant with government cuts and I went full-time content creation and here we are.
Wait, so what? Hold up. What would happen if, unless Muncle wants to ask something?
I do.
Oh, you go ahead first.
I'll be quick. I had a quick comment. It's funny that you that's the field that you worked in, because that's the field my brother, my brother's fiance, my cousin, and my fiance all work in.
Damn.
I have like a whole family of working in kids special ed.
That's cool. It's very, very wholesome and very rewarding, but also challenging. Right?
Yeah.
So Maikeru, you're talking about like cuts, right? So what would happen if streaming just RuneScape just disappeared right now and like content creation? I don't know, for whatever reason you get banned on Twitch, YouTube. I don't know, dude. How would you be able to get back to work?
Yeah. It was just that school that I was in was an academy, and they could take away funding from wherever they wanted. And there was government cuts, and they decided to take away the funding from special educational need teachers, special educational need staff, counselors, etc., instead of taking it from other areas. So they cut the SEN like staff from 18 to 2. And I could have reapplied to be part of that too, potentially. But I didn't want to reapply because my YouTube was going okay at the time. It wasn't anything to be like amazing for, but it was something that I wanted to go for. And it gave me the push in the right direction, I guess. So instead of trying to take that away from someone else, I dove into content creation.
Mm-hmm.
How are you enjoying full-time content creation versus your previous work-life balance?
More unsociable now.
Because that's the hardest part about doing it full-time.
Yeah, I'm in my room a lot and I'm always on my computer editing or getting footage or streaming. But it is social in terms of streaming as well, though, because you do a lot of interaction, you talk to a lot of people. So in that regards, I'm getting
you interact with people,
but I'm not getting it in like real life as much. And then it's a lot more work. Like it's kind of crazy saying that content creation is more work hours and stuff than teaching, but it is. Yeah,
I feel you. I understand because dude,
I think it's a lot more work for kind of someone who's about the channel size that you are, because you got to stream a lot and upload a lot. But I mean, for a YouTuber with millions of subs and they upload one video every couple of weeks, and it gets, and it makes them several $1,000s, then
that's a little bit easier for them. Yeah,
but then Like I know YouTubers do that, but there's also YouTubers that literally just upload. You know what Wazzy does? No
Mhm.
hate against Wazzy, he's doing great thing, but just uploading highlights, and then a bigger streamer does that, and does it to YouTube. They get hundreds of thousands of views.
Oh yeah,
Or they let
definitely.
an editor like put in some,
Yep.
like zoom ins, little sensor beeps, and like memes and stuff. Dude, wow, that's just insane. That's
That's
amazing.
that's what all of the massive streamers do. They have an editor that edits their stream highlights, and they do daily
Mhm.
videos on YouTube,
Bruh,
which are
it's so
really
sick.
good for the algorithm. And then they just stream and have fun, and then the editor takes from the streams each time, kind of thing.
Dude,
It's
that is
insane.
so.
Well, every field has like an ideal job that you want to work up towards to get. I
Mm.
guess content creation is different because, you know, just depending on who blows up and who doesn't, you don't necessarily have to make content for 20 years and then like make it to the point where you can just stream and have an editor upload highlights and
Mm.
that's your income. But
Yeah.
I mean, every field has that.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. And like RuneScape's hard to do that though. I've always spoken to people, and people are like, "Why don't you get an editor or something?" It's like I can't. Like, no one's gonna be sitting there somehow editing a 1 to 99 guide, or like a new release of a
Yep.
boss, or a
Yep.
new release of this content, that content. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, I could stream it. I always stream new content. I enjoy doing that. But then, like, I have to edit it as well, right? Because there's so much I need to add. There's a setup I need to add. There's all of this text and random information. An editor's not gonna be able to do that. So for RuneScape in particular, it's pretty much impossible to do that.
Only series. If you're like a series only channel, that would work. But that's the only exception. You know, you're not gonna if you just make one type of content on Skip 3, I don't think that's ideal for growth. That makes sense. You're gonna have to like diversify into different things at some point.
Mm.
let's be honest, like being a series channel is maybe making it in RuneScape terms because it is so much easier than making guides.
See, I feel the opposite. I find doing progression harder than doing a guide sometimes, because when it comes to a progression, I have like, I don't know, 50 hours of content that I need to put into a 15-minute video. Whereas a guide, I don't, have to sort through all of these clips, or I have to put all of this together and make it flow. I can just like make it, from scratch.
I agree somewhat on that. Yeah.
It depends on how you do it. Like for me personally, for most of my series, like I'll do content until I have something to record, and then I'll record it, and then it's
Mhm.
a lot easier to put those clips together. Like when you're doing a bunch of Rax kills, like on my Iron Man. I did a lot of Rax kills looking for a full leg, but I'll just like record the end of the kill and be like, oh, what are we gonna get here? Oh, it's garbage yet again.
Yeah, I mean, I do record just like the key parts, but even then, it still feels like a lot more work than certain guides. Other guides would be more work, like if it's a huge guide, but like a typical guide of like a new release or something, I find easier than a progression series that I'm working on or something. Typically,
I can agree on that. The only thing I would say is I would probably edit more in terms of hours on a guide, depending on which guide. If it's like um, can I give an example? Violet is Blue 2, that quest guide didn't take me very, very long because
hmm
it's literally that. But if it's like Orphan, that video I made for Jagex
oh
took
yeah,
me a lot longer to make. It was a lot of, and it really depends on what. There are way too many different types of
yeah,
videos.
I guess so.
But yeah, I agree with you that it is sometimes a lot easier to just make a guide than to make like a full blown progress entertaining video.
Yeah,
It also depends, like what do you enjoy more? Do you like video editing more? Because you can put like a whole day's work into video editing, but then it's done and then you upload it. Whereas a progress video might take like a week of grinding content you don't really want to do.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's more the in-game part with the progress. Like,
Yeah, the editing itself doesn't take too long, but the fact that you have to edit, so many hours worth of games
mm-hmm,
into such a short
mm-hmm.
video to make it entertaining is pretty
Yep,
absurd.
yep,
The amount of
that's it.
videos I've uploaded that are like, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes long, and it's taken me 100 hours to get the footage. Especially with like when
Yeah.
I was doing my like Hardcore Iron Man clue series, I did so many clues constantly, and I'd have to make sure I'd done enough clues to have nice content for the video and a couple of drops for the video, etc. And that can take, hundreds of clues, which is like so much time put into each one. And then edited it wasn't too bad, but it'd take me a week or two to upload because I had to get all of that footage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I just recently uploaded my first video in like 3 or 4 weeks, and I noticed a lot of people were like, "Oh, he's gone again." And
Oh,
it
dude.
wasn't that I quit. It's just that uploading a progress video requires me to play RuneScape for 40, 50 hours.
Yeah.
In order to get the clips to do it, and it's difficult to do that during finals week, and when you're trying to play old school S and experience Trailblazer, and yeah.
We've been talking for a long time. Is there anything you guys want to say to round it up?
No, not really. It was a really fun podcast. Oh, dude, that time flew by.
It's great because we always go on tangents.
I did have one person on my latest video said he was really excited for the podcast.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
Thank you to Oots.
There you go. Oops.
His name's Oots. I want to give that shout out.
I also had someone. Loot Shark. If you're watching, be sure to comment.
Oh, Loot Shark. He's just a classic guy.
Wait, you know him?
No.
Oh, I was like, hey.
I just wanted to make a awkward comment about someone I don't know.
But I always enjoy these podcasts. We go on like so many random tangents and stuff, and it
Holy
becomes
crap, dude.
talking about Raksha into talking about random things about content creation, and it's always good. So I appreciate you guys coming, and I appreciate you guys being here, and I look forward to more in the future.
Yeah, this one was a bit overdue because I had a bunch of family drama, and then I had finals week. We planned on doing a podcast like, what, 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Leagues? Rip.
Yeah.
But it turns out RS3 players, I don't think were that interested in leagues to begin with, so maybe it was fine.
I think it would have been pretty good if they made one for RS3, but it's one of those things that's you never know until you try it as well.
I could probably do Raksha with like some OP relics, dude. I could just AFK it. Hell yeah, dude. That's more like it.
Yeah, that's what I'd be most excited for.
Yeah, just like
is just completely wrecking, the hardest bosses in game with like tier 80.
Higher risk Telos? Just crap, this is gonna turn into another podcast, dude.
We better stop while we're wrapping up.
Before we get to sidetrack again. I appreciate you both, and I look forward to chatting again, and hopefully everyone enjoyed listening. I appreciate you all listening in, and again, we'll continuously upload it on Spotify whenever possible, and hopefully there'll be like a nice archive there eventually, so you guys can listen in there as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
We'll do this again in January or something.
Yeah, sounds good. After Christmas.
Yeah.
Have a lovely Christmas, everyone, and until next time, see ya.
Yep. Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, whatever your flavor is.
Cheese.
Cheese.
Just end it there, dude. Just